This evening, the invocation and pledge will be led by Member Sanchez.
Good evening. I'm going to read something about how to plant your garden. First, you come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. For the garden of your daily living, plant 3 rows of peas, peace of mind, peace of heart, and peace of soul. Plant 4 rows of squash, squash gossip, squash indifference, squash grumbling, squash selfishness. Plant 4 rows of lettuce. Let us be faithful, let us be kind, let us be patient, let us really love one another. No garden is without turnips. Turnip for meetings, turnip for service, turnip to help one another. To conclude our garden, we must have time for each other, time for family, time for friends, and time for all of us to spend with each other. Water freely with patience and cultivate with love. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may have a seat.
Right in the middle of the 2 mics. Let the record reflect that Superintendent Griffin, all school board members, school board attorney, school board clerk, Ms. Moramis, are in attendance this evening. As school board members, the roll call order will be Member Sanchez, Member Kraus, Vice Chair Pennock, Dr. Calderon, and then myself. Do you have any blue forms, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Griffin, do you have any modifications for the agenda?
I have just one, Madam Chair. The agenda for good causes marker agenda by a green flag named addendum item.
Thank you. Board members, any modifications? Member Sanchez? No modifications. Thank you. Member Krause?
No modifications.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
No modifications.
Dr. Calderon?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I just have one comment on 5Q, the SAC membership. I'm thrilled with the diversity that's represented finally on the membership, and thank you. I know it takes a lot of effort to make that happen, and I appreciate, please thank all your principals. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, presentations.
We have 5 administrative introductions.
I'll take my mask off. I'll take my mask off. Board members and Dr. Griffin, we're really happy to finally be able to introduce our new principals. And first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tony Oglesby, the new principal of Altamont Elementary School. Dr. Oglesby has been an educator for 19 years. He served as a high school special education teacher, as a district staffing resource specialist, as an elementary teacher and assistant principal. And he enjoys working with children and continues to strive to be a great leader. He's excited to be the new principal of Altamont Elementary School. Congratulations, Dr. Oglesby. With him in attendance virtually are his mother, Melinda Oglesby, father, Willie Oglesby Sr., sister, Tamika Oglesby, and other family and friends, and I'm sure many folks from our Altamont Elementary Eagle family. Congratulations, Dr. Oglesby. And second, our new principal of Stenstrom Elementary School, Mr. Jake Novak. Jake is a 2-time graduate of the University of Central Florida, Mr. Novak has taught first, third, and fifth grade at Winter Springs Elementary and Lawton Elementary. Prior to his appointment as principal of Stenstrom Elementary, Mr. Novak was an assistant principal at Redbud Elementary for 6 years. Currently, Mr. Novak is working on his dissertation at UCF, researching equitable access to quality education through educational emergencies with an emphasis on the current COVID-19 pandemic. You might remember last summer before last, he went to Botswana with his research. So congratulations, Mr. Novak. And with him tonight is his mom, Karen Novak, who drove through the night from St. Louis to be here today. Please stand up, Mom. Congratulations.
At this time, Dr. Griffin and Board Member Almond, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Yvette Hartsfield, the new coordinator for Kids Zone and Beyond. Mrs. Hartsfield has 25 years of government experience in the public and private sectors as a management professional. She currently holds a master's in public administration and a bachelor's in professional studies in business. She also is a certified teacher, a grant writer certificate, and supervisor managing certificate. Mrs. Hartsfield has completed 5 of the 8 levels in order to become a certified public manager. She is well versed in the operations of finance, human services, administration of government, and she has also managed up to 250 employees, such as seasonal, contractual, part-time, and full-time employees. Welcome, Mrs. Hartsfield.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Griffin. It is with great excitement that I announce the new administrators to middle school. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ryan Garrett, Assistant Principal at Tuscaloosa Middle School. Mr. Garrett is in his 9th year in education, all taking place in Seminole County Public Schools. He began his career as a civics teacher at Jackson Heights Middle School, where he was the Seminole County Middle School Rookie Teacher of the Year. After nearly 6 years there, he spent a year teaching at Millennium Middle School before becoming the dean at Tuscaloosa Middle School, where he has been since. Joining him tonight is his wife, Jessica Garrett, a teacher at Oviedo High School, daughter Rose, and son Tristan. Congratulations. Next, we have Dr. Melissa Ladani, principal at Lawton Childs Middle School. A second-generation product of Seminole County Public Schools, Dr. Ladani has worked for SCPS for 25 years. She began her teaching career at Teague Middle School and was one of the teachers who opened the original Lawton Childs Middle School campus and portables on the Jackson Heights campus in 1999. Since she left Childs in 2013 to move up into administration, is now back home as the new principal. Dr. Ladani has earned a bachelor's degree in English education from the Florida State University, a master's degree in English specializing in literature from UCF, a specialist in ed leadership from the Florida State University, and a doctorate in educational leadership from the American College of Education. Family members joining her tonight is her husband, John Ladani, her son, John, and daughters Gia and Gabriella. Congratulations, Dr. Ladani. And lastly, we have Dr. Connie Elaine Collins, principal at Teague Middle School. Dr. Collins began her career as a history teacher in Orange County Public Schools. She has worked for 25 years in Seminole County Public Schools, serving as the principal of Seminole High School and Crims Academy of Information Technology, assistant principal at Seminole High School and Teague Middle School. She retired in 2019 after 35 years in education, and I hired her back to work another 25 in middle school. Welcome back, Dr. Collins.
Good evening, Dr. Griffin, Madam Chair Almond, and board members. I appreciate this opportunity to review our truancy process and also what is truancy about and what are the real numbers. So there is a statutory requirement for students to attend school at the age of 6 until 16. One of our challenges is that we have some pre-K kids and kindergartners that at times will stay home and go on vacations with parents, but they, especially our kindergartners, count toward our truant numbers. There is a policy that we have in place, procedures that we must follow in order for us to approve those, the attendance as excused absences. Again, the issue is there are specific reasons as to why a student can miss school. We do have some families that are taking vacations or other trips, although very educational in nature. If we're going to be perfectly equitable and transparent with all kids in Seminole County, we must treat them all the same and report it in the same manner. So when you're looking at it, and always the question is, what's the average daily attendance and what students are we really talking about here? When you look at the data, I want to kind of read it for you, kind of look at it. What you see in the chart on the side for the 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, and 19 school year, you can see what the average daily attendance is for each of our levels. 1920 obviously is not specific, it's not accurate, it's at 99%. But had everything been normal in the normal world, we probably would have seen the same numbers that we've received or seen over time. When we're looking at our percentage of students with those 15 or more absences, I want to remind you that just last board meeting, we kind of talked about the absences, chronic absenteeism as defined by our strategic plan, which is 10 days or more. So those numbers are a little bit different. When we're looking at chronic absenteeism, for this purpose, we're really looking at how it's defined by the federal government and other agencies out there as far as chronic absenteeism. So as you can see, the average trend for elementary is around that 14, 15%, and for middle, 15, 16, and high school, we had a blip in the screen in 18 and 19, but for the most part, it trends at 16%. So what are we really talking about when we're looking at the chronic absenteeism? Our social workers are engaged in the process with the schools. We have an MTSS process. We do a tiered approach as far as that is considered a behavior of our students. We notify the parents with a 5-day, 10-day, 15-day letter. We do some follow-ups and all of those things. But what is interesting when I spoke, and I asked Caitlin out of Callie Thompson's team out of Assessment Accountability, let's really kind of like put the numbers together and find out which of our students or families tend to have multiple years of chronic absenteeism. So when you're looking at those percentages, if you kind of note, and it's noted in the notes below, but in 18, 19, and 17, 18, 43% of the same students that are in that grouping, like an aggressive regression, kind of like a pattern here, 15% or 43% of those students are the same ones. Again, we look at those trends in 17, 18, 16, 17, 42%, 16, 17, 15, 16 at 35%. We did have some interesting data. We were trending a little bit better in that 15, 16, 16, 17 area. I've also asked Caitlin to provide me and our team a list of those names that over the course of time, those families with the same address that are chronically absent, that we can target those specific areas. And we've assigned and tasked someone that we hired under our Title IV at 40%, a Saban Pitters, that is out of Deirdre Garn's group, for us to track, and she has the task of taking 5 families with the most numbers of students that are chronically absent and owning them. So we're going to do a case study to determine whether or not we're making a difference in the attendance of these students that have a tendency to have multiple years of chronic absenteeism. As noted before, though, if you note, and you can see that data, usually by the time we get to that 5 to 10 day letter, the students are attending on a regular basis, and we tend to get those back. So it is targeting a specific group of folks. So we do have a truancy a process, and the process relies on many folks doing their part, which is that we have to make sure that we tier the student, we have to track the data correctly and put it into our attendance system accurately. Then, of course, we have to determine if they're tiered and we've done some interventions, or it's a student with an IEP that requires some additional support. And we also have to host a meeting. All that is documentation that we must have in order for us to file a petition and move forward. So we prepare the petition, we send it to and refer it to our legal services, and our resident expert is sitting right across from me that can talk to you about more specifically what her role is in that, if she wants to share. But when we're looking at our statutory requirements, all of these things need to be in alignment, and we have to be able to show evidence of all of the interventions that we have done, and that we have made a reasonable effort to get the student in attendance. So the truancy packet has a checklist, and at the end of the checklist, the principal is required to sign off on the packet, which means that they are promising to send a member of their team to truancy court. When you attend truancy court, and this is the truancy process in our legal department, when you do go to truancy court, it's usually all morning long, and there's not, you're sitting there that entire time. Our social workers go, and so do our school administrators, to speak with the magistrate at the time of this meeting. Usually, and this is one of the frustrations, usually our social workers aren't questioned, and a lot of times our principals aren't questioned during those meetings. They take at face value what the parent is sharing. And when that happens, then it's pulled back into the school system to do more tracking, more data, more collection, and all of those things. And so with the chronic absenteeism over the course of time, what families usually learn is that there's not a whole lot of teeth to this truancy process at the end of the day, because no one wants to see these children taken away from their families. And the courts don't want to make those students wards of the court. So it really is our job to convey to the parent how much and how important daily attendance for those students to be successful later on in life. And that is another thing that we're doing with our Title IV person, Saban Pitters, is that we are doing part of our initiative, Every Minute Counts, which we started a couple of years ago, has been really basically put on hold because we can't say every minute counts and then send kids home for 14 days because of COVID cases and things like that. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at those cases, we really are trying to galvanize our community to see the importance of it. And her role and deliverables is making sure she speaks to local community businesses and making some partnerships out there that maybe we can get them on Link's buses, Every Minute Counts, some of the logo out there, and getting the word out as the importance of attending school and engagement in school, not just attending, but being engaged. And that is it. And one of the things that both Sarita and I spoke about is the duration of that case, that petition. It's over the course of 3 years, or 2 years, sorry. And so over that course of 2 years, if we have a good, so if they're tasked to show and demonstrate daily attendance for a month, and then they go to the magistrate and attend, so they're just being monitored now, and they can fall off the wagon for a little while and then and so then it's just starting the clock ticking again for those 2 years. So it's a long process, and Sarita can share more specifics as far as what she does on her end.
Board members, we have, in general, about 50 open cases, truancy cases per year. Sometimes it trends a little higher, sometimes a little lower, where the staff council, once the petition is filed and once the students are determined to be truant, that they are in that process of having to adhere to the order of the court, and sometimes that includes tutoring, entering into tutoring services. Sometimes that includes parenting classes for the parents, other interventions that are available to the court to order either for the parent or the student. And then there's a monitoring process. And as Dr. Walsh has indicated, we do see patterns where there is some improvement and then kind of, backing away of that improvement so that the cases cannot be dismissed and they have to be continued to come before the magistrate approximately every 30 to 45 days to see where the students are, where the families are in adhering to the law for coming to school. So it is a process, and a lot of the times, as you know, there are other factors at play that have to be addressed, and we do try and address those through the social workers, through the teachers, and providing additional information, and through the families, and trying to instill the importance of coming to school. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. Thank you, Ms. Beeman. Yes.
Related to this school year, are we seeing the numbers increase? I know it's early in the year, but.
And if I might, Dr. Walsh, just want you to remember that since March until about September 10, we were not in the process of going to court because of the COVID-19 situation. So while there was cases that were in the process, they were pretty much stayed during that period because the court was not hearing those issues.
But are we seeing the numbers leading up to the point of having to go to truancy increase because of the current situation?
Same families that we're experiencing. So just to let you know with that connect, the families need to log their children on time at a certain time period. And then of course they're either in attendance, or they're tardy, or they're unexcused. Those are basically what I'm seeing. And I did pull up some examples of some of our students that are trending toward that chronic absenteeism. And you look at their schedule, there are some tardies in there, but there are a lot of unexcused absences in those pieces. So I've asked our social workers to give every family a call that we are experiencing or seeing those same students, because we want to make sure that there are no barriers for those students to participate. And then once we've eliminated the barriers, we are tracking that data, because this is their daily attendance. This is their mode of their education, and so we're going to hold them responsible for it. So we are tracking it, but as I mentioned, we're doing trendings for a year. But right now, at this point, we did a comparison of last year, first semester, this year, first semester. We're trending about the same. It's our same kiddos that are experiencing the same problems with attendance.
The board members, I asked this topic to be brought forward because I had gone to truancy court a couple of times, and it's quite eye-opening. You know, I thought, oh, the 10 days and maybe a few extra days. There are cases where it's months of missing class. So Ms. Beeman has offered to bring us a couple of cases where they'll redact the names, so you get a real insightful view of what they have to deal with to try and get these kids in the classroom. Yes, Member Sanchez.
I appreciate you doing that. Do we see that a lot of them are not having emergency phone numbers? I'm dealing with one of my kids, not my own personal, but had moved to a different area in Seminole County and has missed 3 weeks of school. And they weren't able to get in contact with her mother. They weren't able to get in contact with anybody but me. I'm on the emergency contact. But then I had to go search for that person. So I'm wondering, what if they don't put in, I've seen the cards filled out without, or a Skyward without information on there. How are we making sure that we are trying to track them down? If they moved, are we talking to their, I don't know if we can talk to their landlords or their companies that their housing, where they live, or, you know, if they own a home, how we can find out if they moved. I don't know what the procedure of that is.
So Michael Lawrence's team sent out that blast requesting parents to update their student demographics, student information, personal information. We rely heavily on families disclosing their phone numbers and their addresses accurately in our system. When we have cases like we don't have an operating phone number, we do home visits. We go with local, you know, the Sheriff's Department is highly engaged in this process as well. They have their group of students that they have been following and the families that they've been tracking for a very long time. We also have Minnie's department and her team and our team working together to go to housing and apartment complexes when we see families of students that are kind of hanging out in the parking lot during the school day instead of being engaged in Connect or coming to school. So we're going to them if they're not coming to us. That doesn't always work 100%. We do have folks that aren't going to disclose information, and we do the best we possibly can with the resources we have to get that information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Dr. Griffin, is there a superintendent search update?
I believe Mr. Russi is going to speak to that later.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for public comment. Vice Chair.
The public input segment of this meeting is provided for the purpose of permitting persons to present specific matters to the board for its consideration and action or referral to the superintendent and his staff. The public input segment of this meeting is not open to presentations of campaign issues by political candidates, matters involving student disciplinary actions, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending litigation. Each individual member of the public is limited to 3 minutes. A designated group representative may have up to 6 minutes.
Thank you. First speaker is Jennifer Devine. Ms. Devine, if you're given the 6 minutes to represent SEA, then it's to speak for the whole group. If you speak about your classroom or your personal experience, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Devine, and I work for Winter Springs High School. A few weeks ago at a Rotary meeting, Amy Pinnock was the guest speaker, and she stated that she applauded the choices that Seminole County had given parents. She also said that she could see Connect continuing for the next decade. The school board is not listening to us. To Connect for teachers right now is not working because you guys do not have the funds from the state to make sure that teachers teach either Connect or face-to-face and not both. And I realized that we haven't been asked how we feel, and we have not been asked how we're doing by the board. And so I put out a survey to my fellow coworkers, counselors, and employees or staff members of Seminole County, and I asked if they could speak to the district, what would they want to say? And they wanted to say a lot. They wanted to, or so far we have received over 214 responses. When I sit down, I will send each of you an email with all of those responses so you can read them, because I want you to read them. Some of them are lengthy, but you should read every single one because they are so impactful. Here are some of the numbers. 85.5% of teachers and counselors are struggling in some capacity. 32.9% of those teachers and counselors say they are absolutely drowning, and 39% are struggling a lot. The rest are struggling to some degree. This school year, 77.5% of teachers or counselors have thought about or searched for another job. When asked whether they would take another job at equal or higher pay, 37.9% said yes. 26.6% said they would heavily consider it. 25.2% said they would consider it. That means that 89.7% of teachers who responded would potentially leave if offered outside employment. That number is staggering. When asked whether they would take a job at equal or lower pay, 59.4% said there was a possibility that they could leave. 59.9% of teachers have thought about resigning this year alone, and about the same number is thinking about resigning at the end of the school year. 93.3% of counselors said that they, when surveyed, said that the extra responsibilities thrust upon them have negatively impacted their ability to support and serve our students. Only 8.7% of teachers feel supported by the school board and district. 73.6% flat out said they do not feel supported by you. The remainder of those who responded said they only felt partially supported or wanted to say no with more colorful language than I'm willing to use tonight. The written responses provided make it clear that Connect needs to go unless you can staff it separately from face-to-face. The unsustainability of teaching both and scheduling both is a theme throughout almost every answer provided. Counselors, teachers, and staff are worn down. Parents will still have a choice. They can still choose Seminole virtual, Florida virtual, or face-to-face. They still have choice on what they want to do with their children. Now, there are hundreds of written responses to multiple questions, and there's no way I could read all of them right now, but here are a few that really impacted me. The ridiculous amount of choices needs to be reduced. I'm extremely frustrated that all this district cares about are parents. Without teachers, you have nothing, yet they are unwilling to listen to our requests. They're not even trying to provide any relief on the teachers. The district idea of help is spamming our emails with PD classes that we don't have time to take and saying we're here from you, which is absurd. Another teacher, I find it harder and harder to get out of my bed and come to work. I find it more difficult to be the smiling teacher the students need every day. I do not have passion to teach anymore. Another, I have been teaching for over 20 years, and the last few years have been the hardest, but this surpasses those by far. I leave many school days crying, and it is not fair to my family and loved ones that I do not have time for them or for myself. I just don't think I can and will continue this much longer. Another, I find it harder and harder to get out of bed when I come to work. I find it more difficult to be the smiling teacher my students need. I have panic attacks daily now. I cry every day. I have slipped into a depression and I haven't been in a very long time. It's affecting my health, my family, and my sanity. And this one is very difficult to read. I lost my third pregnancy this year in September, and I couldn't take time to mourn. My stress is through the roof, and I cry about once a week. My medical bills are mounting, and trying to seek answers for my fertility issues, and my HSA that I saved up for a baby is almost gone. Now I'm afraid if I get COVID, I'll have to dip into that savings, all the while showing up smiling every day, knowing the job puts me at great risk each day. One of the parents at our school died of COVID this week. His kids will now have to deal with that trauma, and I don't want to be next. I don't want my baby, if I can get pregnant again, to die because of my job, the job I love. This school board currently has created a work environment where a woman feels she does not have time to grieve the loss of a miscarriage. And unfortunately, heartbreakingly, this woman is not alone, because when I shared that story, more women came out. She's not the only one who feels this loss and that she can't be afforded the time to grieve. The environment you have created for teachers, counselors, your staff, we're the ones that are in this. And we are telling you that this is what you have created and this is what you can change. You have placed parent satisfaction over the mental and physical well-being of your teachers, and I invite you to look in the mirror and decide who you are as an individual and who you want to be as a school board. Thank you.
Lisa Marie Ramkisoon Chu. followed by Sandy Stenoff.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Chu, and I've been a school counselor in Seminole County for nearly 7 years. This role has always been challenging, but this school year has been and continues to be one of the most tumultuous experiences that I've attempted to survive. There are times that I feel as though the role of the school counselor is unseen. We're being asked to monitor and meet the needs of students with 4 modalities of instruction: face-to-face, Seminole Connect, SCPS, and hybrid. We've been burdened with the responsibility of being SCPS counselors, constantly monitoring students that we have limited to no access to, assigning and dropping classes, reinstating dropped students, serving as tech support, and troubleshooting the multitude of issues that have come up with SCPS and Seminole Connect. Parents and students have been frustrated through this entire process, and it's exhausting being blamed for things that are out of my control, especially processes that were determined and implemented without thinking completely through. We are now asked to do a huge disservice to our students when they are not successful in SCPS by bringing them back to face-to-face. This is hurting our teachers and our students. I've completed schedule changes nearly every day this school year, and we have deadlines that are put in place for modality selections or changes, and they're just ignored. At the end of the day, I'm expected to prioritize my time to change schedules and overwhelm teachers who are already working beyond their abilities instead of working with students in other capacities, like supporting their mental health and post-secondary planning. This seems like my sole purpose this year. Change schedules at the start of the year, then at the end of each quarter from one mode to another, and yet again at the semester, and every day in between that a student fails and needs to reset to something else. Each day, I log in, uncertain of what new problems have come up since the afternoon before. The level of anxiety that's dominated my work life is immeasurable. I'm not able to be the type of counselor that I want to be because I'm busy just keeping my head above water. Even working after hours and on weekends, I can't keep up. Attempting to serve all my students in the various modalities and continue to fill those responsibilities that are expected, like credit checks, is creating the perfect storm for my mental health to collapse. There just isn't enough time and manpower to be successful, and something has to change. We're 11 weeks into the school year, and my body is telling me that summer break should be around the corner, to just hang on, that a break is coming where I can rest and work on recovering from the school year. On October 27th, I shouldn't feel this way. My brain is constantly telling what I have to make sure to get done tomorrow, and second guessing if I called that parent back from a few days ago or responded to the email from a senior who's freaking out over her college essay. This is not working. The expectations put on school counselors does not allow me to serve students effectively and thoughtfully to meet the success model of college and career readiness. How can I give of myself when I'm completely defeated and overwhelmed? When will you, our leaders, fully understand that counselors, teachers, social workers, administrators, and all of our wonderful staff are drowning and really need more than just a life raft? Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Can you speak up, please, Sandy?
Can you hear me okay?
All here?
I'll try.
You're welcome to take your mask off. You're
Okay.
far enough apart.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm here as a parent and as a co-founder of the Opt Out Florida Network. On April 4th, 2019, 2 separate statewide news sources reported that Mrs. Calderon, Almond, Pennock, and Sanchez endorsed former Florida Representative Jason Brodeur for the Florida Senate, more than 18 months before next week's election. You could not then have known who his opponent would be. This suggests a straight party line action and partisan politics have no place in a school board. Parents are increasingly informed, are paying attention, and vote on the issues important to them. When you use your elected school board office to endorse any political candidate, constituents would like to trust that you are looking out for their children's interest. While your endorsements laud Mr. Brodeur for his supposed support of Seminole schools, he aggressively promotes opportunity scholarships, which are really opportunities for countless private schools across Florida to provide questionable education to unsuspecting families with public funds at the expense of our public schools, and these schools are unaccountable to taxpayers. Meanwhile, public schools struggle, as you know, under increasingly unfunded state mandates for security, mental health, incessant testing, and now increased health and safety precautions as a result of the COVID pandemic. For years, members of the Central Florida School Board Coalition from all 13 districts have discussed amongst each other how education votes in Tallahassee pile on the mandates while draining district coffers. What Representative Brodeur says about supporting Seminole schools is belied by his voting record, which opposes the broadest and true interest of all Florida public schools. To name a few, 2016, HB 7029, analyzed by numerous statewide Pulitzer Award-winning newspapers. This was a massive bill redirecting major funding from public schools to charter schools without holding them to the same standards. HB 7043, Best and Brightest Teacher Incentive Fund based on teacher SAT scores, at best idiotic, and at worst damaging to teacher morale, recruitment, and retention. HB 4001 authorizes open carry of firearms on state college campuses. 2015, HB 7037 authorized additional funding for charter schools. HB 7111, sponsorship of unsuccessful bill to ban same-sex adoptions. In light of the credible investigations verified by the Orlando Sentinel, exposing Mr. Brodeur's continued slander against his opponent, Patricia Sigmund, his own questionable personal tax-paying ethics, but most of all, his attacks on traditional public schools via state legislation, I call on you to stand on the side of our public schools and rescind your endorsement given as an elected school board member. Failing that, for the good of Seminole County Public Schools, I hope that in future election cycles, you will more thoughtfully consider the consequences of such endorsements and what they mean to those who elect you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of you wish to comment? I'm going to comment for myself. I don't just loan my name. I have to have done business with that person, or I do turn people down, or they actually have to have a working relationship with our district. And I won't say that in every case they support public education, but Mr. Brodeur has done things for Seminole County Public Schools, whether you agree or not, and I appreciate what he's done in Tallahassee for us. So I don't make my decisions based on party for that. Mr. Capro, getting in under the wire, last speaker. You have one more? Oh, yes, okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, school board members. I'm glad I was able to come in on a very quiet, uneventful evening where people are all happy with the work that you're doing. I've been spending all day at the Supervisor of Elections office watching canvassing, and so the last thing I wanted to hear about was comments regarding politics. But I'm actually here tonight to talk to you and say thank you. You all have been working tirelessly, along with the teachers and the staff and the administrators. Both of my kids, as you know, go to Winter Springs High School. From helping make sure that my kids had their proper schedules and juggling them when they didn't, to a very special Saturday morning call from Mr. Gaffney inviting my student to stay home for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, you're here tonight. I didn't. And having to explain to my son that while it's the right thing to do, it's not easy, it's the right thing to do. And that's the thing that I would recommend that everybody try to keep in mind, whether it's a teacher or an administrator. I have to tell you, out in the world that I work in, it is just as frustrating. It is just as overwhelming. There are challenges in every single corner of our life today. But you all have been working and making it work and finding a way to make it work. And when I see my kids come home with a smile on their face, even when the days are not as good as they could, I know that you all are doing the right things. So I just wanted to stop on my way home to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Moramis?
We had one public comment submitted via email from Jessica Tillman from Longwood. And Jessica writes, let me start the timer. As a parent and employee, I do not agree with mask mandatory masks for students or employees. I have an 18-year career in health, exercise, and nutrition. I am currently an assistant manager with Red Apple Dining and on maternity leave, set to return in February. There are many studies, which I have linked to this email and I have shared with the school board, showing little to no effect of cloth masks against any virus, not just COVID. The virus has a 99.7% overall survival rate per the CDC, the World Health Organization, and our local agencies. Children especially are not susceptible to getting this virus. Why are they masked? If teachers who are scared because of the fear-mongering media, they can feel free to wear a mask if it makes them feel better. It is their right and freedom to take care of their own health as they see fit, as it is my right and freedom to do the same. Wearing a mask gives a false sense of security. Throughout this pandemic, they have learned how to treat and heal from this virus. As of yesterday, 10/26/2020, there have been 237 deaths since tracking began. That is 0.049% of the Seminole County population, period. There are currently 547 cases actively being treated in Seminole County. That is a 0.11% of the population. In the state of Florida, there is a clear decline in deaths overall, even with everything reopening. Yes, cases are on the rise, but with better knowledge of how to treat its deaths, again, are on the decline. If we do not mask our children for the yearly flu, which they are at greater risk to catch and even die from, why are we masking them for a virus that has been proven they are not catching? When all of this started, even Dr. Fauci stated wearing a mask does not work against the virus. He changed his tune and said it couldn't hurt. That is not science. That is fear-mongering. There are no studies showing the long-term effects of children in masks, what it is doing to them psychologically and emotionally. Why is it better for them to be in the same sweaty, gross mask day in and day out that they pulled out of the bottom of their backpacks or off the floor? It makes no sense that I have to wear a mask to protect you. If masks are there to hold in the virus, why doesn't it work to keep the virus out? It is not your job or the government's job to blanket mask everyone. That is not science. That is not safe. That is not effective. When does it stop? When can we remove the masks? This is very concerning to me that you feel it up to you to make healthcare choices for me and my family. Please look at the science. If masks worked, wouldn't this all be over by now?
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment, public input. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation on the consent agenda, please?
I do, Madam Chair. My recommendation is that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Motion to approve.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, do you have any new business?
We have one item, and before I read my recommendation, I'd like Mr. Rusty to come up and speak to the issue.
Well, good evening, board members and Dr. Griffin. Just want to give you a brief update on the superintendent search before we move to your next item. As of today, a lot of our advertisements are phasing out because they are 30 days. Michael Lawrence has extended those for us, so they'll continue through the November 13th deadline for the advertisement, although they will extend beyond that, but we are taking care of that. Also, I know the last time I spoke to you, I think we had 7 completed packets that we had received. As of today, we've had 15 people show interest in the position. 10 of those have submitted completed application packets. I believe you, the board, have received most of those as of today. I believe you have received those. Just a reminder, I know this evening in a few minutes, you're going to make a decision about the Superintendent Search Community Advisory Committee membership. Once the board has acted on that, I plan to send an email to the membership of the committee tomorrow, just so you're aware. I'll copy all the board members on that email so you'll know what each one of them received. It'll provide a lot of information to them. One of the most important things is, as you know, once they are seated by the board as an active committee, they do fall under sunshine law. So one of the items that will be in there is a YouTube PowerPoint voiceover video that's been put together by our Associate School Board Attorney Greg Johnson has put that together. It'll cover the Sunshine Law and Public Records Law. And it's important our committee review that right away. They'll be asked to do that immediately. but it's just a chance to get that in front of them. Their first meeting actually won't happen until November 5th, so we thought it's important they have that. They'll also get a list of everybody else that's seated on the committee so they understand who those other folks are that they'll be dealing with when they do meet. And they'll also start receiving the application packets that you've already received. And we'll be providing them to them weekly, similar to what we'd be doing for the board. They'll either receive them paper or electronically. Most want it want it electronically. A few do want it paper, which we'll take care of doing. On November 5th, our first meeting of the committee, that will be an orientation meeting. Primarily, that meeting will probably be one of our longer meetings because we will go over the Sunshine Law again, give folks an opportunity to ask any specific questions they may have, although Mr. Johnson has included his phone number and email address in the PowerPoint they're receiving, so if they have questions, they can call him or call any of us here at the district office. Also at that meeting, we're going to go over the packets that we've received thus far and some of the information about how they look at the application packets and what the expectations are for when we have our next meeting, which will be November 19th, where we'll actually start paring down the applications that we've received to date. I anticipate, as I mentioned earlier, we only have 10 completed packets so far, as I think all of you are well aware. That will accelerate the last few weeks of the application period. Obviously, with us being a Sunshine State, a lot of folks may not want that out in the public yet, but we do anticipate those applications coming in fairly rapidly after the first of the month. So that's all I have for tonight.
Madam Chair, can I ask one question,
Member
Mr.
Cross.
Rusty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we give applicants a chance to remedy their application if it's incomplete or not received, or is it just discounted?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do we give the applications that are rejected for incompleteness, do we give them a chance to remedy their application?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, the 5 that I told you that have submitted to me, I've already emailed them and told them what the deficits are and what they provided. Some didn't submit it in the correct form because we advertise in a lot of different places. And unfortunately, those places have something they can't turn off where someone can submit through their application process. But to treat everybody fairly, they have to submit through the email address that we provided. It has to include the items that we've listed in our advertisement, specifically the number of items and exactly what they are, and signed correctly. So if they're short of that, I email them back, let them know, hey, this is missing from your packet. I will tell you that some that have submitted through those other places, I've reached out to them multiple times now, and I haven't heard back. And I will reach out to them again. I don't know if they'll choose not to continue through the process, because sometimes the packet includes a number of items, as you know, but a lot of these folks are just sending me a resume through the portal that's through that particular company. So they do need to submit through the appropriate process, but we are reaching out to them to make sure they do have every opportunity to apply.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Rusty.
Okay, Madam Chair, my recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County approve the membership of the Superintendent Search Community Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Is there a motion to
Motion
approve?
to approve. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And both my items are read-only in the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Okay, board members, do you have anything to report? Member Sanchez.
First of all, we had, sadly, Mr. Edward Blackshear passed away October 17th, and a few of the school board members went to the funeral. Oh gosh, was it yesterday? Yes, yesterday. He was such an inspiration and mentor to Dr. Griffin and to so many others, and of course, you know, we named Seminole 9th Grade Center after Edward Blackshear. He, of course, helped with the unitary status. He has done so much for the community with young men of excellence. He was a leader in so many different areas, and I just want to say that his funeral was amazing, and to such a legacy that served 94 years and did so much for Sanford, Seminole County, for the country. Such a wonderful, remarkable man, and I just wanted to take that moment to celebrate everything he's done for Seminole County Public Schools, as an educator, principal, administrator, for you, for everybody that is here. We really appreciate everything he has done for all of us, and we will miss him dearly, and wishing his family all of our thoughts and prayers. Allie's Hope Mental Health, we will have a fashion show on November 12th. It's going to be with Dillard's. Actually, Dillard's is going to be watching this and seeing if they could do this throughout the United States. We will receive 10% of the proceeds. I still need some volunteers of students that need Bright Future Hours to help with the swag bags of people winning different things, and these are big items that they can win, like full bottles of perfume. We'll be modeling different things like purses and clothing and different items, and then people will get to go in for the swag bag. So if they spend over $250, this, of course, the money goes to our wonderful schools for mental health through Allie's Hope, and we could use all the help we can get. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they feel free to. Also, don't forget Arts Alive is coming up pretty much that same weekend, November 14th, and we're still needing any items. If anybody wants to volunteer, donate items, we can throw them in a basket now, so we can have that live for the virtual auctions, and along with everything else. And had a great time doing school visits last week and this week, and just hope everybody has a safe and wonderful week, and Halloween as well.
Member Krause?
Yes, thank you. We too had a school visit, Jackson Heights, and it was wonderful. They're doing a lot of creative things with social distancing and trying to keep the teachers. They did have some pure classes, which was only Connect or only in person, and I don't know what that looks like now that more parents have chosen to come back. And just to speak to the comment that was made about continuing Connect for the next decade, we don't know what the governor is going to fund. Am I allowed to say this? Okay, so we don't know what the governor is going to approve or fund as far as Connect. I can speak to, we know that it's a challenge. We hear you loud and clear. We're all getting emails. We hear you at the board meetings. Pardon me. I think it will serve a purpose to have Connect as an option, but I think we can do it better than maybe we have been. I think we need to learn from you. We need to hear from you. So I look forward to those comments that you'll send to us. And in my business advisory board, we talked about, from an economic standpoint, how businesses are going to do business differently. They may not need brick and mortar, office buildings. Their employees are working successfully from home. And I think we are going to address this through the business advisory board, how the economics affect schools. And what our future of education is going to look like. So we're all learning through this. We're all trying to do the best we can. Our goals are the same. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight. My other two committees meet. I have Children's Cabinet this week and Business Advisory the first week of November, and then School Health meets later in November. So those are. Oh, and all of us went to the beam signing at Lyman High School today, and they're building a career and technical building it'll have automotive and construction. And it's very cool, and they're very excited. And if all goes well, it'll be open for students by next fall. So that was a great visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Pennock.
A couple things. Just want to say congratulations to Dr. Cody on her retirement. She's probably sitting watching with a glass of wine and her feet propped up. I hope she has had a nice, quiet week so far. I had the nice opportunity of being asked to speak at the countywide student government group. And while we had some technical challenges between me and the guest speaker, Seth Bernstein was the guest speaker. was not familiar with him until this, and his speech was phenomenal. And he talked about the keys that were given. He didn't grow up and have the best life. He was given some good keys and bad keys, and the choices that he made to use with those keys has formed him to who he is today. And he was talking to the kids about making sure that you use your keys, you use your relationships to further yourself and better yourself. And his last few moments before his internet went down was, don't use this as an excuse. It is a moment in time. We're all going through this, but do not use it as an excuse as to why you're not moving forward, why you're not succeeding, why you're not continuing to learn. And it just was such an impactful conversation to listen to, and I really appreciated that opportunity that our students were able to get him in and talk to the group about his experience and his advice. We have PSFPC on November 5th, so I'm looking forward to, in the next month or two, getting the interlocal agreements wrapped up. We had a couple of school visits this morning, and while we are getting some constructive criticism, I want to tell you one of the teachers in one of the classrooms looked at Dr. Griffin and said, "It is my honor to be here, and I'm so excited every day." And so we are challenged. We're having challenges with it working really well and it not working really well. One lineman, we were talking that they're using some of the afternoon opportunities to have some of the best practices shared among the teachers, and I hope that we can get to that place where we can help our teachers get through this. But to make a blanket statement that none of us care and support our teachers is really hurtful, because we're all working every single day to help move this whole situation forward. I will clarify, I did not say that Seminole Connect was here for decades. My comment was student learning, the way we deliver education is never going to look the same. And I think that we all stand by that. We hear that. I have picked up some comments that have been said tonight that concern me, and I'm wondering if we have some mental health resources for our teachers that maybe we can reach out and provide some mental health, some PD to help them get through some of the challenges that we're having right now, because it's equally as frustrating for these teachers to come in front of us and share their frustrations, but I would like to ask these same teachers to provide us with options, opportunities. What are some solutions, not just frustrations? So I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing solutions. I'm not hearing suggestions, and we need that. We're a team. We're working together, and so those are my comments.
Well said. Thank you. Dr. Calderon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll piggyback on a few prior comments. I was going to say that there's a big void in this room tonight. We're missing one of our leaders, and Dr. Cody, and being the humble servant leader that she has been for decades, she didn't want to be honored in public, and I just felt that to put it on record, to honor her in a small way without her being here. We miss her tremendously. Her legacy will live on forever, and I'm so happy that SASA, our Seminole administrators, have given her the first award in her name, the Dr. Ina Marie Cody Award for Excellence and Equity, because we know we will continue to strive to provide excellence and equity to all, and it's because of the path that she brought us down many, many years ago, and I know we'll work tirelessly to honor her good work. I also wanted to thank all of our volunteers with the Environmental Center. had fun doing my virtual 5K so I could chunk it with my broken ankle. I didn't have to do it all at once, but, you know, I know we're all overusing the word pivoting and changing and trying times, but to know that people are still passionate about what they truly believe in, whether it be their classroom or the environmental center. We still have some phenomenal volunteers and educational leaders that continue to strive to do what's best for our kids. And as far as Mr. Blackshear's legacy, I wanted to add, too, that the family has requested that in lieu of flowers or cards, they would prefer that anyone who felt the need to honor his legacy, that there is a scholarship set up within the Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools, the Ed Blackshear Scholarship, that any donations are welcome to that. And those scholarships every year go to our children that have participated in the Young Men and Young Women of Excellence program that we were so excited to work with Mr. Blackshear on for so many years to ensure these children had a brighter future. And I, too, were lucky enough to visit classrooms. Haven't been to yours yet, but I wish I could. What I saw, along with Dr. Griffin, is teachers working tirelessly to meet the needs of every single child. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. We know those are difficult times, but the enthusiasm that I saw in the teachers, whether it was a total face-to-face or totally on the computer and the gadgetry that was set up so everything could be seen on the computer, and then the blended classes, it doesn't go unnoticed when we're in the schools, and we truly appreciate it. And as Ms. Pennick said, you know, if there are solutions, how we can work together, because before we leave every school, the last question that's always addressed from our superintendent to the administration, what else can we do to support the good works of everyone in this school? And so all I could perhaps suggest is that communicate more so we all know what the opportunities are, because really the only opportunities, you know, I'm looking forward to hearing it, but I see it on social media and then I try to address it. And then I say, did you talk to your principal? Because at this point in time, it's not a county mandate of how classes are formed. It's a school-by-school decision. And, you know, because of that, maybe we need to learn best practices and share best practices or go down a different path and pivot into the future. But I look forward to very informative discussions to collaborate together to do what's best for our employees, to do what's best for our students, and move through this in the best way that we can. And that's my updates. Thank you.
So, Seminole County Human Trafficking Task Force met, and we meet every 2 to 3 months, and it was a virtual meeting, the first for us in that manner. They're putting together a new website, and they're going to be promoting it. All the agencies that are part of the task force will be listed with their logo and a connection to the website and a contact person, which would not be me, of course. Do we have permission to put our logo, and can you tell me who the contact person would be?
Just work directly with me.
Okay, thank you. Mayors and managers had our October meeting at Boomba Sports Complex, and someone was brave enough to ask where that name came up from, who made that name up. And apparently it's a sporting brand, which I never heard of because I'm not into sports. So a little education for me. I too am doing school visits and glad to be back in the classrooms and on the campuses. Community Alliance met, go to meeting. That is a committee that's statutorily put together, and it's for the child welfare. So Seminole County Sheriff's Office, Department of Juvenile Justice, Seminole County Public Schools, we're all statutory members, and then there are public members, a lot of agencies like Empower that deal with child welfare. So we just work collaboratively together for the betterment of children. So that's it for this evening. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and no further business. This meeting is adjourned.